it's a totally different reality that we don't understand. And it's been with us forever. It's just part of who we are, or part of this universal process that's going
Alien abduction. Just the thought of that is enough to make your skin crawl. Now, whether you know someone who's been abducted, you know someone who's had an experience, perhaps you have, maybe you think, yeah, that this is real, or perhaps you think that, no, this is someone's imagination, perhaps a bad dream, a delusion, an illusion, or it's real. Whatever your perspective is, we have a special guest today, Les Velez, Lester, joining us from Texas. And he is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to helping people who have been abducted or who have had paranormal experiences, helps them recover from the trauma and the stress and get back to their lives. So we welcome, Lester, we welcome you in to We Are Not Alone at Queen City News Plus. I'm MayCay Beeler. Thanks for joining us, Les.
Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, we are delighted that you have time for us today because you're very busy. You're an author. You've written a book. You have your nonprofit organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. And we're going to talk about that today. Here's your book cover. I'm interested to learn about the book. You have been with MUFON in the past as an investigator. So you are very familiar with alien abductions and experiencers, non-human intelligence, and there we go, OPUS, we believe you. Let's discover together what's next. Les, how did you get involved in this?
Well, it actually started when I was 11 years old and living in Connecticut at the time. And I was coming back in the house. It was late October, and it was getting to be dusk, and I looked over to my right, and here's this object silently moving over the tree line. Scared the hell out of me. And I ran in a house and tried to get my father to come out. And by the time he came out, it was gone. And he says, oh, it was probably just a beacon of light reflecting off a cloud. I didn't believe it. And so I went to the library soon thereafter and started reading books on UFOs. And back in those days, George Adamski was the preeminent writer about his contact with the Venusians, which was fascinating. The pictures that he had were phenomenal, that he was able to take through his telescope. Anyway, long story short, fast forward to 1985. Moved from Connecticut after I served my time in the military, and picked up the San Jose Mercury News one day, and Stanton Freeman was coming to San Jose City College to talk about UFOs and the government cover-up. Well, it was like somebody threw a light switch, and I got really excited about that. So I went there, and I expected to see a handful of people. The auditorium was packed. And on my way out of this fabulous presentation, MUFON had a table, and they have a monthly journal that they publish. And so I decided to get that and start reading about cases. After a while, that wasn't enough, and I became an investigator. And all the cases, almost without exception, people were telling me that they had contact with non-human intelligences. Besides seeing the UFO, I mean, they were having intimate contact. And the first case, I was skeptical. I was a nuts and bolts kind of a guy. And but after this case after case, people telling me the same thing and telling me really similar stories about their experiences, I said, there is something definitely happening here. It's not just fantasy, because there's physical marks on people, implants that have been discovered on people. And one of the experiences one day said to me, do you know of other people having experiences like that? So I said, yes, I do. Next thing I know, I'm facilitating a support group in my office on a monthly basis. And
Mhm.
that's why I learned so much about the phenomena. And
Les, and good for you because this is a way of helping. And do these folks need help? I mean, is it as traumatic as we imagine it would be?
the initial incident, okay, the first case uh, experience that the person has is generally the most traumatic uh, because it's ontological shock that's going on. You're taken out of your bedroom through the wall or through the ceiling, okay, it up in this beam of light, being brought on board a craft, being laid on a table, being inspected, probed, uh, semen taken, sometimes eggs taken from females. I mean, it's a major procedure that generally follows these types of things. So what we have done in 1994, my doctor friend and I decided that we needed to put together an organization, and as I said, OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, was formed as a nonprofit recognized by the federal government, which blows my mind all the time. Okay, yeah, do your thing. Um, but so what we have set up now is three things. One is a confidential online support group where we have over 500 people from around the world that are talking 24/7 to one another about their cases. And then we also have a referral network of mental health practitioners and hypnotherapists that we could refer people to. And these people are fully vetted. They have to have the appropriate licensing and certifications. And the last thing, the most recent thing we've done, the triage uh, group that when a person comes to us for help, we start talking to them and finding out what it is that they would really like the outcome to be and how best we could help them. And so our website at opusnetwork.org has a lot of information in there, information for experiencers. And all people have to do is just go to our website. And if they're looking for support, there's a support tab there that they can click. And we just ask a few questions, your name, your email address, and what it is that you would like. We give them two choices. One is that you're in a support group, or have someone from the triage group contact them, or both. We can do both.
Okay, Les, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about what is perhaps the most disturbing story or encounter you have heard about, either as a MUFON investigator or as a co-founder of this organization to help people, the most surprising or disturbing. So we'll be right back when We're Not Alone continues. Stay right there. Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of We Are Not Alone here on Queen City News Plus. MayCay Beeler here with Les Velez. He has the wonderful nonprofit that is helping people who have been abducted or had paranormal experiences to get over the trauma and perhaps heal and how to deal with it. Can you imagine the stigma involved with that? Les, I want to ask you, because as a MUFON investigator, you've learned a lot, you've heard a lot, you've met a lot of people. As far as abductees are concerned, can you share with us what is the most surprising or disturbing encounter you have heard about?
Well, I tell you, there's a plethora of unbelievable accounts. I have three of them in my book, The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact. Thank you. There it is. And one of the cases was a couple. They were amateur pilots, and they decided to do a little picnic one afternoon, and in a park north of Santa Cruz, California. And they had a lovely day, and it was getting to be dusk, and so they were coming out of the park. Now, this park is basically on the side of a hill, so it's rocky, and it's covered with a lot of vegetation, everything. And so getting down out of there, even during the daytime, it's not easy. So anyway, um, as they were coming down out of the park, they noticed this light over the ocean, and it started to get bigger and bigger as it came towards them. And as it stopped literally over their heads, it was a triangular craft, 3 lights, one on each apex, and silent, no sound, about the size of a small Learjet. And it went into a canyon behind them. They noticed another light over the ocean. Same scenario. Craft came over, stopped for a moment over them. The first craft, they felt they were looking at it. The second one, they felt it was looking at them, and they became frightened. Anyway, they all of a sudden felt very strange, and they felt like they were not in control of their bodies, and they started to float down the path until they got to their car. And that's the last thing they remember. 3 hours later, they end up in a restaurant, which is only like 10 minutes away from where they were. Okay, so it wouldn't take 3 hours to get there. And they had no recollection of what happened. And the latest case I just got that just came across my computer was three men were out fishing off the coast of Florida. And one of the gentlemen came to our organization to tell his story and then also talk to people in the support group. And this object came out of the water, came towards them, frightened the heck out of them. And next thing they know, they're back in port, missing time. They had a record on their GPS. They had GPS in the boat. It showed that they went 6,000 miles in that.
Oh my gosh.
Night. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But would the GPS even have coordinates for that? Sorry, my pilot question.
Yeah. They showed the whole path, exactly how it went. And
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
There's stories of people with their Apple Watch or something where it tracks your breathing and your your altitude and everything like that. People have said, well, they were taken like through the ceiling, and it shows them going up in elevation.
Wow. I've learned something there. I'm impressed. I've learned something. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Les.
Yeah.
Was there more to that story? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to just move on because you had asked a question a little bit earlier about the different types of entities, but
yes, that's what I want to know. Tell us about the different types of non-human intelligence.
Well, we just finished, almost finished, I should say, the second phase of study called the Omega-4 study that I'm doing with a psychologist friend of mine. And basically, we outlined the various entities. And you hear about the Greys, the short Greys, the tall Greys, the Nordics, the reptilians, the praying mantis type, which you've had a couple of pictures in here. And so there's a multitude. Then there's light beings. There's interdimensional beings. There's a plethora of contact that's going on. It's not just, the Greys, which you hear a lot about because they seem to be the main characters in all of this. And so in part of the studies that we've done, we've subjected these experiencers and a control group to various psychological instruments. And we found out in a study that we did in 2007 that these people did not have a psychopathology. They were not crazy, okay? Which is what a lot of, skeptics talk about, that these people have a problem, and they don't. They, after the experience, they come back with a totally different worldview, a positive worldview, that we need to be more loving, we need to be more concerned with our environment and being better stewards of the planet. And then we also found out that the the temporal lobe activity in the experiencer versus the control was different. There was something different in how their temporal lobe processed all of this information. And
Les, is there a commonality between the people that tend to be abducted? Do they all have something in common that you have discovered?
well, one of the things is that there seems to be a triggering effect at a younger age, where childhood trauma of some sort, okay, whatever it causes people to disassociate, not in a psychopathological way, but in a way to be able to handle the situation, okay? But there's that initial contact that occurs, and then afterwards they're much more prone to more paranormal activity. It may be poltergeist activity, demons, angels, you name it. It's a totally different reality that we don't understand, and it's been with us forever. It's just part of who we are, or part of this universal process that's going on.
Les, do you think that we all have the capability? It's just we know some people are more empathic than others. Some people have more psychic abilities. Some people are able to communicate with deceased loved ones. If I had that ability, would I have I don't want to be abducted, don't get me wrong, but would I be in a position that I could meet a non-human intelligence?
There are organizations, CE5 organizations, where they try to set those kind of things up. Stephen Greer, has been a big proponent of making contact like that, and there's been other people that have brought together groups of people in a forest somewhere, and they are able to actually bring ships in to be observed, and there's a connection, and there's a physical connection in the brain, in the caudate putamen area, where there's a lot more connections in people's brains that have telepathic or psychic abilities. And I think what we're seeing is an evolutionary process that may have been triggered by these aliens, if you will, years and years ago. And eventually, I think we all will have that capability. It's just that we've forgotten about it, or lost the ability to do it. But there are people definitely that have that capability. And after these experiences, people come back with that ability.
Mm-hmm. It's heightened, I guess. Would that be correct?
They never had it, and then they realize they have it.
Are these benevolent forces? Do we need to be afraid?
As it turns out, again, this recent study that where we took experiencers and a control group, these people, the initial phase is traumatic, okay, but as these things continue, they become very positive, and so over 70% of the people don't want the contact to stop. Only a small percentage want it to stop. And again, it's a question of time. And one of the things we found out, one of the characteristics that abductees talk about is honesty, which blew our minds when we came across this fact that these relationships that these people strike up with these entities, honesty is a big factor. And these people are believing that these entities are telling them something that is not false.
Okay, we're going to take another break. Interesting, honesty. Wow. Stay there. We'll be right back when We're Not Alone continues. Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of We're Not Alone. Les Velez joins us today talking about people who have been abducted, who have had experiences and encounters, and just told us that many of the non-human intelligence, whatever you want to call them, the abductees believe that they gave them honest information. Les, being an investigator and being part of this nonprofit, you've talked to so many people who've had experiences that are unbelievable. What is the greatest takeaway and we won't talk about your book as well. What is the greatest takeaway? The rest of us who think that this might be a bit out there need to know.
Well, I think one thing that people need to understand is that this phenomena is worldwide. Okay, it's been going on for eons. Um, I think that my latest theory on this is that we've all had an experience, whether we consciously remember it or not. Um, and I've I've had a particular situation where somebody told me that they saw me on board a craft, and I didn't have any conscious recollection of it. And then it was a couple of years later that somebody told me the same thing, and so I finally went and got regressed and came up with multiple past lives, but still didn't find anything along those lines. However, the bottom line is whether it's a dream, whether it's out of body experience, these things are happening. They're very real. They're very real. It's a different reality. And so people that are going through this, there's a place that if you're having issues, you can come to us at opusnetwork.org to get you kind of help that you're looking for with either a therapist, a mental health practitioner, a hypnotherapist, and so we're there to help as best we can.
Les, how has this changed you? I know as far as you remember, you haven't been on a spaceship, as far as you consciously remember, but learning about other people's experiences, I know you have an open mind. We have to have open minds. How has this changed you? Has it?
Well, like I said earlier, that I was a nuts and bolts kind of a guy. I was only interested in how these things operated. But when I started working with these people that kept telling me that they had contact with these non-human intelligences, there's a whole different ball game. Now we're talking about consciousness. We're talking about time, space. It's just all so complicated. We're just scratching the surface on trying to understand what this phenomena really is. And of course, our government is looking at the nuts and bolts aspects at the present time, but they've also contacted people that have had experiences and debriefed them. And our military knows that people are being abducted. You could get into a whole nother aspect of this that yes, our government knows. They've known. Uh, they're keeping it for whatever reason secret, and only time will tell if we can get this Congress to actually pull the trigger on this and bring out all the information.
Do you think the president knows?
I think that probably Trump knows something. I think he probably does know something. And there's been other presidents that have known, like Nixon, I guess, knew. He and Jackie Gleason had gone down to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, and I guess they had a ship there or a body or both. And so it's like,
wow. Yeah, there's so much to talk about. So as we wrap this up, tell us about your book and how people can get in touch with you. I know you mentioned the website before.
Yeah.
Tell us about your book.
Yeah, the Unknown Other basically is going over the physical and psychological aspects of an abduction. So there's a lot of detail in there, tremendous amount of detail. Not only pictures of the various aliens, but the various factors that psychological factors that people are dealing with. Because of those experiences. So it's a great overview for people that have not really understood what this alien contact is all about. And is it something that we need to be concerned about? And I think we do need to be concerned about it in a way that we need to at least be able to help these people that are having these experiences and are having a hard time with them. And so this is part of the omega-4 study that we're doing is because we went out to therapists and asked them what they were dealing with. And so what we're trying to do is develop something where they can actually get like a primer on this and give them good information on how to take care of these types of people that are coming to us. And this is happening more and more. We're getting 2 to 3 people contacting us, every week. And it's just an ongoing process. Brand new people coming forward with their experiences.
It just seems like the world is shifting. Is shifting. Yeah. So OPUS, Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, thank you for what you do. I'm sure there are many people who can use this service, whether you're a believer or naysayer. This is a program out there that can help folks. So Les Velez, we thank you so much for your time today. We wish you well, and
Thank
be
you.
careful. Be careful out there. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, MayCay.
Thanks for your time. And thanks to all of you for watching this edition of We Are Not Alone here on Queen City News Plus. I'm your host, MayCay Beeler. We will see you next time.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.